us to get into some top stories, and one story that we need to get into is the one where the city of Johannesburg is facing some backlash after a reported 10 billion reallocation from essential service budgets towards meeting financial obligations, which is tied to municipal worker agreements. Now, this decision has drawn criticism from opposition parties, and more particularly the DA, which argues that diverting funds from key things like water, electricity, roads, sanitation, it undermines the city's ability to serve residents much more effectively. Now, also this controversy highlights the tension between labor negotiations and fiscal responsibilities. Which one is more important? Now, while municipal unions might argue that for fair compensation and stability, there's some critics who warn that prioritizing short-term labor deals over long-term infrastructure investments will risk some deteriorating services, eroding public trust, and it will also deepen the Johannesburg's financial and governance challenge. Not only that, but we've seen Johannesburg experiencing some water cuts. There is a deteriorating roads in some areas of Johannesburg. There's still some delays in electricity maintenance. We've seen some areas who are still without electricity, and we've seen reduced water collection. Now, the DA has come out and said that they maintain the city's approach to demonstrate a misalignment of priorities, and they call for transparency, accountability, and corrective measures to ensure that these services are not compromised. And for more on this conversation, I am joined on air by Cllr Belinda Kayser-Echeozonjoku, who is joining us via phone call. A very good morning to you. To you, ma'am. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, and good morning to the listeners.
Now, let's get into this because you guys released a statement yesterday. Please provide us with a clear explanation of how the DA's position on the alleged 10 billion reallocation is. What's your stance on that?
We're completely against the fact that the 10 billion rand that the mayor is redirecting is unbudgeted for. And once he's confirmed now publicly that it's unbudgeted for, it obviously means that money will then have to be taken from essential services. And we are completely against that because residents of Johannesburg are already struggling with ailing infrastructure. We've had people who are without water for weeks. I'm sitting in the dark at the moment as we speak because of constant power outages. And one of the reasons why we are completely against it is because the mayor's priorities should be with the residents of Johannesburg and ensuring that service delivery happens and not worry about his political career.
And how does the DA evaluate the city's fiscal management in the context of the decision that has been taken with the 10 billion rand?
Well, obviously, if the city is saying that they do not have funds, obviously there is a bit of a challenge. The city, their priorities are wrong. They are not, practicing proper fiscal management. And this is one of the reasons why we're saying we've seen that the city, the minister has had to write to the mayor to account for 26 billion rands of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which has been an accumulation of years that had not been done. And this will just add to these. And this is one of the reasons why I had written a letter to the Minister of Finance yesterday to ask for an investigation into possible violations of the Municipal Finance Management Act. This is the reason why I wrote that letter yesterday, because we don't believe that there's prudency.
And in that letter, hypothetically speaking, let's say they justify the reallocation. They say that it was necessary. Do you think there could have been other alternative strategies to make sure that there is money for what they wanted?
Look, the city has long not really gotten their priorities right. we've said that, for example, if you look at the water crisis currently in the city of Johannesburg, there are people that have been weeks without water. It would have been wise for the city to possibly apply for some of these water grants that is available for the water grants that are available currently, and the city, because they are not willing to account, that is why they're not applying for these grants, which can be used for service delivery and dealing with the water infrastructure backlog in particular. So we're saying that the city can find money, and it is just a matter of being willing to account for the monies that you are given. And unfortunately, in the city of Johannesburg, we have not seen that accountability when it comes to financial management, and especially grants being used. So they can handle the situation and prioritize the residents of Johannesburg, not use monies that are meant for service delivery towards appeasing the unions. They should ring-fence the monies that are meant for water, electricity, and all of that, and spend it on the residents and getting service delivery done. And unfortunately, that's not being done. And that includes, even if there's revenue collection that are coming from specific entities like Joburg Water, like City Power, ring-fence those monies. Then you won't have this issue of doing things unfunded and then have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul.
I love the fact that you brought in accountability, which is something that I want us to touch on. But for now, I just want to get the news headlines out of the way. They'll take nothing more than 2 minutes. Please stay on the line as we continue this conversation with Cllr Belinda. Money has been reallocated from one place to another, and we are in conversation with Ms. Belinda to talk a little bit more about what their stance is as the DA, and in terms of accountability, what do they want to see? Which is my question to you, Ms. Belinda. How does the DA plan to hold the mayor and the city council accountable for this financial decision?
The reasons why that letter was written to National Treasury is first, for the mayor to come clean and for us to get the information that is needed. The mayor previously had been called to Parliament to account for some of the monies that it was reported in the news, and we could not get answers from the city directly. And one of the reasons why we asked for intervention from Parliament is because we could not get accountability. The first step for us would have to be for the executive mayor to account when National Treasury obviously ask what's going on, because we've listed a number of possible violations, which the mayor would ultimately have to account to, because he is the first citizen of the city, and all of this has happened under his watch. And failing which, we will then obviously consult with our legal team as well to see what has been happening. But at this point, what we are doing is we are following the internal process. We're writing to Treasury because we couldn't get answers when he was accounted, when he had to account to Parliament. So, and we doubt we're going to get answers anyway. There's lots of diversions when the mayor always responds, he deviates and make this about the opposition just being flimsy and things like that. So what we are going to do is the first step is waiting for the response for the letter, which we usually get quite a quick response because this is urgent. And secondly, we will be consulting with our legal team in this regard.
So, in your perspective, how could the city of Johannesburg better balance the labor obligations that has been promised by the unions with the need to maintain infrastructure and service delivery? How can they get the balance right?
The way the balance should be done right is you do not make political agreements to get votes and get the unions to vote. Don't politicize the unions, one. And two, when there are negotiations, those negotiations, there must be at least money and budgetary availability for it. You cannot get into political facilitated agreements to try and win an election, and then only afterwards scramble to find the money. It is bordering on not having your house in order and not being able to account properly. You're not going to be able to account properly because it will ultimately lead to irregular expenditure at some point. And there are laws in the MFMA, legislation that guides that. And that is what, unfortunately, this has happened. It's a politically facilitated agreement. In a DA government, you do not just make agreements and commitments, financial commitments, without there being budgetary allocation firstly, but the residents, any budgetary allocations should be prioritizing service delivery and the residents who ultimately pay for services. So you cannot make, the DA will not be getting into political agreements just for the sake of votes and politicize the unions. Because that is what happened here. The ANC, who unfortunately had been in government for quite some time, gets into politically facilitated agreements because they are worried that they will lose votes, and then only think afterwards of the implications of that decision and using the state resources to try and get votes. And this is exactly what's happened here.
Kind of reminiscent of the times where some of us were promised free education and, we had to fight for it. But as we look forward, what long-term governance reforms are necessary to prevent similar situations from happening in the future? In terms of governance reform, what could be put in place?
Well, there must be better oversight, one. And you see a lot of these decisions that are coming to council, which we have taken on as the DA, a lot of decisions that some officials will advise the administration and the executive to please, to look at and show them the negative implications. We must have officials that are fit for purpose that can advise the executive correctly. And where the executive make these kind of decisions that are having financial implications for the city, these should not even get to council. And once it gets to council, councillors themselves must have all the information and make better decisions in council instead of making political decisions that will affect the city, and everybody eventually will be paying for these decisions. And that is what the DA would do differently. Better oversight, more better administration, people that are fit for purpose, and proper oversight.
That is Cllr Belinda Kayser-Echeozonjoku giving us her insights when it comes to the budget reallocations. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
An interesting conversation we just had there with the DACO, City of Johannesburg leader, just emphasizing how the current party, which is in power, seems to be over-promising and under-delivering when it comes to service delivery, and also giving people jobs and giving them stability when it comes to those jobs. But that's how we wrap up that conversation. More?
Exploring the latest news.